White Americans are definitely going to be at the receiving end of a spiteful Biden administration, which has made no secret of the fact that its prime objectives are to desecrate gender boundaries, stifle the free speech of Americans, and even control their very thought process while going around the world carrying out an unprecedented and unfeasible bout of climatic vigilantism. White Americans are expected to be viciously incarcerated for having a certain set of thoughts, ideologies, and belief systems which a liberal Biden administration is going to walk all over during the next 4 years. Recent statements of 3 individuals close to the power corridors of Washington, D.C. give us an idea about how white Americans are all set to be labeled and treated as domestic terrorists, while they will all be labeled as white supremacists at the drop of a hat. And then, if such white Americans turn out to be Trump supporters, even God would not be able to help them escape the clutches of neoliberal fascism which has gripped the United States. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for starters, said that there are legitimate white supremacist sympathizers at the heart of the new GOP caucus in the House of Representatives. Cortez, being the left loony that she is, even took to alleging that the white supremacism of Republican representatives was being condoned by senior GOP members. Make no mistake, the parameters of Cortez judging Republican congressmen are simply that they are white Americans, conservatives, and dare to speak about the welfare of the people they represent. Cortez, in her little rant, went on to say, and I quote, "Because there are no consequences in the Republican caucus for violence, there are no consequences for racism, no consequences for misogyny, no consequences for insurrection, and no consequences mean that they condone it. It means that silence is acceptance." Unquote. Meanwhile, in what also suggests that a grand and nefarious conspiracy is in the works to have all white Americans be eyed with suspicion in their own country, anchor and chief national security correspondent at CNN, Jim Saito, took to Twitter to say that right-wing and white supremacist extremists are a greater threat to America than Islamist terrorists. In fact, the man had the temerity to draw parallels between supposed white supremacism and Islamist terror and said that both ideologies are hinged on a belief of false reality and deep feeling of humiliation and victimization. And of course, the CNN anchor inferred that the domestic terror threat posed by white Americans was more dangerous since a former US president willfully echoes their rhetoric and feeds their anger. To make matters worse, loudmouth former CIA Director John Brennan called the threat from domestic violent extremists much more challenging than the threat from foreign terrorists during a discussion at MSNBC. Brennan also came out in wholehearted support of the Department of Homeland Security under the Biden administration, issuing a bulletin warning that some angry with the presidential tradition and other perceived grievances fueled by false narratives could commit violence across the country. Earlier, soon after Joe Biden took over as president, the former CIA director had revealed that American intelligence agencies are moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about the pro-Trump insurgency that harbors religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians. This only cements our assertion that white Americans in America are on the verge of being labeled terrorists simply because of their appearance. Also, the fact that the Biden administration is almost completely committed to tackling the supposed threat posed by domestic terror leaves a huge vacuum in the United States fight against radical Islamist terrorists and far-left anarchists, who on more occasions than one have displayed their incredible ability to burn down the entire country almost instantaneously. Yet, for inexplicable reasons, white Americans now seem to be prime targets of the American deep state.